This is Vazart Coquart's Special Club 2008. It comes from a tremendously famous, celebrated vintage in Champagne. The last truly great vintage in Champagne. There hasn't been a better one since. Whatever people might tell you about 2015, it probably will not surpass 2008. But at some point there will be another great vintage in Champagne. The Champagne is pale medium gold, often a sign, but it doesn't confirm everything, but often a sign that this was not made yesterday. And when I say made, I mean when was it finally blended and put down in the cellar to begin its aging on the second lees. And immediately, because I know Champagne, I have an emotional response. I am on the Côte de Blanc. I smell that slightly saline, white flower, grapefruit, certainly agrumes, the French generic term for citrus, and the sun is shining. It's a spring day. If you think that sounds pretentious, you need to read some people's tasting notes. I wouldn't necessarily write that down. I'm simply saying that your response to wine initially is emotional. It certainly is for me, and it's then that you must begin to apply more analytic faculties. So what I notice is the light floral agrumes and floral finesse that almost certainly would put this and any other Champagne like it into the slot of being Blanc de Blanc from the Côte de Blanc, because it's wholly made from Chardonnay, a more delicate series of aromas than those Champagnes that blend Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier as well. So I know this is a Blanc de Blanc, but I would hope if I had it blind I could get this far and say, I think we're on the Côte de Blanc. I think this is 100% Chardonnay, and it's a vintage Champagne. Now the palate. The first impression, and it is crystal clear, is one of tremendous power of flavour, which certainly confirms to me this is a vintage Champagne, but also a rather good vintage. And certainly the winemaker may have made a rather good wine in the sense that he's expressed that tremendous power, which is there, but it's not clumsy, it's not a clodhopper of a wine. There's this sense that somehow steel bands are bounding this wine and holding it in check, that there's a feeling in the palate of imminence, that there is power to come, that there is a big future, that there are things about this wine that are not yet expressed, and that sense of restrained power I think is characteristic of many great wines from the 2008 vintage in Champagne. I have no impression of oak or oxidative processes on this wine. Of course, it would be easy to say I know that because Jean-Pierre Vazart Coquart uses only stainless steel techniques in making his wine. But the next thing I would mention about this wine is the texture of the mousse. Champagne is Champagne. It may seem surprising to want to emphasize this because it is first and foremost a sparkling wine. A lot of people seem to discount its bubbles and almost wish it was simply Burgundy. And you hear phrases like Burgundy with bubbles about good Champagne. But Champagne, first and foremost, as its principal sensory characteristic, is fizzy. And the texture and the quality of the mousse is a key quality factor. I think the ideal that we're aiming for is of a creamy, slowly unfolding, gentle mousse, and certainly the utter antithesis of Coca-Cola or of carbonated, sparkling beverages that burn in the mouth and that seem aggressive and coarse. This is absolutely the opposite of that in intention, and I think in success. He's managed to make a wine that is powerful, restrained, but with a lovely creamy restrained mousse. And finally I would comment on how long the flavours linger when the wine has gone. That's called the finish, or the length of a wine, if you just want one technical tasting term. But How long the flavors linger when the wine has gone is fundamentally something you must look for and concentrate on if you wish to be able to assess quality in wine. Because after all the other parameters, if it is dead stop, dead short, if after 2-3 seconds you're not tasting anything anymore, I'm sorry, but it won't be a great wine. It may be delicious, it may be refreshing, but it is not going to be in the super high quality fine wine state. The length of this wine is very good. I won't say it's utterly endless yet. I think there's some development to come. I would love to see this wine in 5 to 10 years' time, when I think the length and also the complexity of the flavors in the length of the wine will be even longer.
Brilliant.
Van dit was zeg voor mij.